Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked a little bit about the NFL draft, got into some early looks for that, and Anthony, you might be right, if I'm being totally honest. Maybe he goes to Miami with Shannon Dawson, has a great 2025, really kind of finds his way up the rankings, and he's a very talented quarterback. Maybe it applies a little bit more to Jalen Milroe than it does to Quinn Ewers of coming back won't do you all that much good. I think it could do a little bit of good for Quinn Ewers. I'm not necessarily arguing it would do nothing. I do think the question with Miami and Cam Ward, the one that I had pretty much all year and the one that I would have if Quinn Ewers were to go there, was the big thing with Cam Ward. The thing that kept him alive in a lot of different situations was his escapability. He was so good at getting out of tough pockets, at finding a way to get to open space and then make special things happen with his arm. Not necessarily what you're getting from Quinn Ewers. So, that being said, if you were to go to Miami and the offensive line were to upgrade a little bit more, give them great protection, the run game gets that little bit better, which I tend to believe it's going to, then you could see a fantastic year from Quinn Ewers. You could see him go much higher in the NFL draft. I do think there is a little bit of question around that. So you might be right. Frankly, I think it's a little bit of a toss-up, if I'm being totally honest, what will happen with him and how it will affect him going forward. But definitely will be an interesting thing to watch. And Miami, if he does come back for one more year, Miami, Notre Dame, Oregon. Those are the teams that I'm watching very closely, with Ohio State sprinkled in there just a little bit. But obviously, plenty of time to talk about that. If they do fall on Friday, we will talk about that on Monday. I promise you that. But let's go ahead and jump into just a final look at these two games that are going to go on the next couple of days, because they're going to be special, guys. And I know I've talked about them pretty much ad nauseum at this point. We've gotten into just about every nook and cranny you could possibly imagine for these games. But the reality is they're so much fun to talk about. These two games are going to be so cool. They're going to be remarkable to see unfold, and definitely are going to be ones that I just feel like we're gonna remember for quite some time, and I'll talk about that here in a bit. But let's get into Penn State Notre Dame to start, because this is gonna be a fun one. There's no doubt about that. These are two teams that play relatively similar styles, with some ers and ahs added in there for Penn State. But the reality is, two aggressive defenses, talent all over the field, and not just flashy, speedy talent. Hit you in the face talent. Really aggressive guys that I absolutely love to watch. And the best defensive player in the country, as far as I'm concerned, Abdul Carter, a one that is very close second, and Xavier Watts on the other side. So going to be awesome to watch this one unfold, and definitely going to be an incredible game. But some matchups to watch as we get into this thing. The Penn State front seven against that Notre Dame run game. Special units on both sides, no doubt about that. That running back, the linebacker core we talked about, but Abdul Carter, Zane Durant, Danny Dennis Sutton, all of these guys on the defensive line for Penn State are just ridiculous. Are just ridiculous in every sense of the word. They are absolutely monstrous players, and you look at this Notre Dame offensive line. I have to keep saying it. They've been absolutely incredible throughout this year. They are still starting guys that are a freshman at left tackle, that are young at right tackle, and those are places that can get exposed at any given game. So there is that worry for me. It definitely will be an interesting thing to watch, and more than anything else, it will be a little bit of Mike Denbrock against Tom Allen, and we'll see who comes out on top in that one. And then Tyler Warren against just the entirety of the Notre Dame defense, if I'm being totally honest, because that's probably what you're going to need to slow down number 44 in this game. And then if you do focus all your energy there, they might just have something different for a Luke Reynolds guy that me and Anthony talked about throughout this week. So overall, it's been awesome to watch this guy play football throughout this year. It's been awesome to watch the Notre Dame defense play football throughout this year. This is going to be a different challenge. It's not necessarily going to be anything like they've seen the first couple of games in the playoff. Definitely not something they've seen before that. And he's just a guy that can do everything you possibly need him to do. He can go up and get 50-50 balls. He can catch a ball underneath and run for 20 yards after the catch. He can block people. He can run the football. He can take snaps. He's a nightmare. Plain and simple. That's the best way to put him. He is an absolute nightmare, and that entire Notre Dame defense is going to find where 44 is on every single play. And then you do have Andy Kotelnicki against Al Golden. Special. Two really special play callers in this one. And Kotelnicki, a very aggressive, very different kind of special guy that plays around with some stuff from time to time. No doubt about that. Al Golden plays one of the most disciplined forms of defense that you will ever find in college football. Who wins out? Does the craziness, does the wild movements of this Penn State offense? Do they change things around? Do they play around with things? And can they get this disciplined defense undisciplined, or is the game for Notre Dame? Do they just continue to play hard-nosed, very smart football on the defensive side of the ball? It's going to come down to those two guys and the play calling they have throughout this game. Then you got the injury report, and frankly, it seems to be okay. Now, Abdul Carter is the big-time question. He is a game-time decision for that game. He won't be 100%. If you're going to try to keep him off the field, I would be surprised if you're able to do that. The reality is this guy's going to want to be on that field, but now the big-time question is, how close to 100% is he? Because the reality is they're probably going to want him to drop into that spy position a lot in this game to kind of take care of Riley Leonard, make sure they don't get those 14-yard conversions that Georgia gave up in that game. This is probably the spot that they want him to be in. Now, the question is, could they just put him in the pass rushing role and then put Kobe King there, or put Tony Rojas there? That is something that they definitely could do. But you want to put your biggest guy in the most important position. That is going to be the most important position tonight. If he's not fully 100%, maybe that's a little bit more up for debate. But obviously something that we'll talk about, depending on what happens tonight. I fully expect him to be on the field. The question is, how close to 100% is he, and how big of an effect can he have on the field? And then for Jeremiah Love on the Notre Dame side, seems like he is quote-unquote good to go. Marcus Freeman said no one is 100%, so Jeremiah Love is not 100% going into this one. But it sounds like him, as well as Howard Cross, are going to be good to go for this game. The question is, again, how close to 100% are they? That could have a big-time effect on the run game for Notre Dame. They were able to keep it up against Georgia just enough. This is going to be a little bit of a different challenge, no doubt about that. So it's going to be really interesting to watch all of this unfold, and it'll be interesting to just see how quickly is Abdul Carter moving early, how fast is Jeremiah Love cutting early, and then we'll be able to figure out what this game has in store for us. But going to be an awesome one, no doubt about that, and definitely one that I cannot wait for. And we just got to talk about it for a second. Give you guys a little bit of hype going into this one, because it's going to be a special one to watch. These are two programs that have not been on the mountaintop until since in the 1980s. You could make the argument that Penn State should have been there a little bit sooner, but that's an argument for another day. But Riley Leonard is looking to become a Notre Dame legend in every sense of the word. Go back to the national championship for the first time since 2012 against Alabama. That did not end all that pretty. Drew Aller can become an outright legend in Penn State football. Obviously, James Franklin would get over that hump. Marcus Freeman would be regarded as one of the top 3, one of the top 4, 5 coaches in the entire country. Jeremiah Love, Abdul Carter, Xavier Watts, Tyler Warren, Jadarian Price, Katron Allen, Jack Kaiser, Nick Singleton, and so many more NFL talents will be on this field tonight. It's going to be awesome. Just take it in, enjoy this one, let these guys just do what they do, because, man, is it special what they do. It's going to be an awesome game, maybe a little bit monotonous at times, but that's that's old-fashioned football. You get after each other for 4 quarters, and whoever's standing up right at the end wins that game. But we'll move forward to that Texas-Ohio State game. This one will go a little bit quicker through, because I'm very much hoping that we'll have tomorrow to talk about this game just a little bit more. So we'll roll through this one just a little bit faster. But as we know, the matchups to watch, that back end against those Ohio State wide receivers is just as good as it gets. Todd McShay said it's the best matchup of the entire college football season. I'd have to agree with him. Those wide receivers against this back end, special in every sense of the word. You will see all NFL talents going at each other throughout that thing, and it's going to be good on good all night long. Who wins? It's going to be really hard to stop number 4, but at the end of the day, if anyone could, probably that Texas back end. And then the Ohio State pass rush against the Texas O-line. We talked about this one briefly, but it's at least 4 guys that are going to go in the top 2 rounds going at each other all night. JTT and Jack Sawyer against Kelvin Banks and Cameron Williams. It's going to be downright special to watch. And then just for fun, if Trevor Gooseby has to come in there at right tackle or left tackle, he's a future first rounder. He's played like that in the first couple of games, and man, that guy is very, very talented. So it's going to be awesome to watch this one unfold, and then you just add in all the other nightmares that this pass rush can give you for Ohio State. Man, it's going to be a really fun thing to watch, and that brings us to our last one. Steve Sarkisian against Jim Knowles will outright decide this game, because Steve Sarkisian, you got to coach the game of your life. You got to play around with a lot of different things. You got to do a lot of different things, and this defense is so fast, so mean, has so many athletes that if you don't create space with scheme, you're not going to create space, plain and simple. So it's going to be a true chess match. There's no doubt about that. I would argue that these are 2 of the top 5, 7 play callers in the entire country, regardless of the side of the ball, and I think they're going to get after each other pretty good on Friday. And then you got injury reports really good. All things considered, there were a couple of worries going into this game, but Ohio State, we've talked about the O-line injuries. We know that's going to be a factor. That's been a factor the last couple of games. Has not necessarily mattered the last couple of games, but not a ton to speak on there. They are locked in. They are ready to roll. Obviously, some things that could hamper them in terms of injuries that have already happened, but going into this game, they are as healthy as they were going into the Oregon game, is probably the best way to put that. And then Texas, they had some questions, no doubt about that, but seems like no longer. Cam Williams, their right tackle, seems like he is all good, ready to roll. Definitely looked very explosive in practice. Isaiah Bond finally looks like Isaiah Bond again in practice, it seems. So definitely will be a huge thing. Texas, all good, all ready to roll, and definitely going to be a very fun one. I think all of us wanted all the talent in the world on that field, and that's exactly what we're getting. And then a little thing, the weather update doesn't seem like it's going to affect anything. The weather that's rolling through Dallas, I believe right now actually, doesn't feel like it's going to change anything. I don't expect any changes, but hopefully we'll have a show tomorrow. Hopefully if anything does change, we'll be able to update you on that when it does come. But going to be an awesome game. Weather hopefully will not be a factor, at least definitely won't be a factor for the players. Hopefully it's not a factor for the fans trying to get into that thing. Hopefully we have a packed crowd, and the hype for this game is very, very simple. Guys, the talent on that field is going to be different in every sense of the word. In my opinion, these are the two most talented rosters in college football right now. These are two teams that are going to go after each other in the first game of the season next year, so whoever loses this one is going to immediately turn their attention to Ohio State in the first game of next year's season. But the reality is Ohio State looked like a buzzsaw. Texas had looked a little bit shaky at best. I don't know. I have a feeling about this game. I picked this game and I said 31-20 Ohio State, and I'm going to stick with that for the time being. I felt a little bit more comfortable doing that than what I was possibly going to do, but the reality is, I don't know. I'm getting a weird feeling about this one, the same way I got a weird feeling about that Georgia-Ohio State game in Mercedes-Benz a couple of years ago. It's one team that was coming off a terrible loss. It was one team that was as on top of the world as you possibly could be. I don't know. They find a way back to the center, and I really do think it's going to be an absolute fight. I think there's going to be explosives in this one. I can't really describe why. I can't necessarily give you a good reason why, and I can't necessarily promise that. I just have a feeling about this one. I think it's going to be special, and I think you're going to see two quarterbacks that are playing as good of football as you've seen them play in their entire careers. But moving forward to a couple of best bets just to finish things off, getting a little bit crazy here. But Penn State, Notre Dame, I love the under here. I think they're going to be a fight for three quarters. A couple of big plays late will make the difference in this game. Going to be an awesome game to watch, and some defensive players that you're going to see play for a long time at the next level. And then I'm going to take the over in this one. This one I fought back and forth with a little bit. I love these defenses. I think they're playing great football. I just think these two offensive coaches are going to have great game plans. I think they're going to get after each other, and I really do think there will be a couple of big plays on both sides. Whoever wins it might just come down to the margins, might just come down to who makes that last play in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be awesome. These two games are absolutely incredible. Enjoy the one tonight. It's going to be so awesome to watch one of these coaches, one of these programs break through at a degree that they just haven't in a really long time. It's going to be awesome to watch this unfold, and definitely something I'm very much looking forward to. Cannot wait for tonight. Cannot wait for tomorrow. As for tomorrow, I don't know. As of right now, I have no idea what I'm going to wake up to tomorrow. I don't know if the snow is going to roll through and cut my power. I don't know if I'm going to have perfectly fine power. As of right now, I fully plan on being here at 9 a.m. Eastern, breaking down what we see tonight, breaking down what's next for those teams one way or the other, breaking down some questions for Texas, Ohio State, some coaching carousel stuff. We have a loaded show tomorrow. Don't you worry about that. If we get a show tomorrow, I will absolutely be here. You will know very, very early in the morning. I'll release a little bit of a short to let you guys know if we do have a show or if we don't, but I promise, if I can be here, I absolutely will be here. But we'll see you then. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the social pages for all the content and updates you could possibly need. We have great people covering every single sport you could want. So if I'm not here tomorrow, then Jeremy will be here tomorrow. Then my guy Nelson will be here tomorrow at 12:30. So no worries, someone will be breaking down the Penn State game tomorrow on these networks. I'm very much hoping it's me at 9 a.m. Eastern, and if it is, I will see you then to break down everything of the craziness tonight. Enjoy it all, and I will see you here tomorrow. I very much hope I will see you here tomorrow. See you then.